It's week 16 of the fantasy football season, and that means the playoffs. Every start decision counts, and that includes defense. You need to pick the right one based on matchups. Who is that in week 16? I'm going to let you know. Welcome back to the Fantasy Endgame. I'm Pierre, and I'm here to talk about team defenses because the majority of fantasy leagues do use a team defense, or DST, as you might call it, defense special teams. So here's the thing, before I get to my recommendations for this all-important week, disclaimer, fantasy scoring for defenses, it's all over the map, right? There's different ways to do it. Some, rules emphasize scoring and points against more, get big bonuses for shutouts, which rarely happen, or for, fewer than 10 points. Some leagues don't really count that much at all, and they really go heavy on the turnovers. Sometimes sacks worth 1 point, sacks might be worth 2 points. So I'm going to give you my kind of holistic overview on a team defense and their potential, adjust according to your needs, but I will try to provide specific details as far as which type of league scoring setting it might be better for. My first team defense to consider streaming in week 16 is going to be the Tennessee Titans. This is one that's an obvious pick. A lot of our in-game community members have asked about them, talked even about stashing this defense ahead of time just for this week, which seems a little crazy because Tennessee Titans defense is not really that good. I mean, look, in real life, they're really good against the run and not really good at all against the pass, and they've been floundering a little bit lately. In fantasy, there's not a ton of upside here. They don't really have a guy who's a prolific pass rusher who'll get sacks, and that's usually what you want to go for in a team defense. But, well, it's all about the matchup, as you know, and that's why these are the top streamers. Well, they get the Texans in week 16. Need I say more? Well, let me tell you why. If you're not sure why, the Texans on the season have scored the third fewest points, and they have the second most turnovers on offense. If you watched them at all last week, you saw Davis Mills fumbling the ball away for no real reason, kicking the ball around. I mean, he has not taken a step forward in his second season. Lost the job just a couple weeks ago to Kyle Allen, until Kyle Allen, who, look, if you were streaming Tennessee or if you were stashing them a couple weeks ago, you hope Kyle Allen was still at quarterback because he was even worse in terms of turning it over. But Davis Mills is good for a couple of sacks taken, at least a turnover or two. So even though Tennessee isn't great at doing that, you know Houston isn't going to put up a lot of points, and you know that they're good for at least a decent floor in terms of the turnovers. Now, if your league goes really heavy on sacks and that's what counts, I might not love Tennessee as much, but this is pretty much the safest streaming defense out there. My next choice is going to be the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're going to take on the Raiders this week. Look, now the Raiders on offense have been very up and down. Sometimes they put up a bunch of points, and sometimes they don't put up anything. Last week, they're kind of in the middle. I mean, the Patriots are a tough defense for the most part. Raiders hung in there, got somehow a crazy win at the last minute. But here's the thing. The Steelers defense has really been coming on lately. They really should have been performing better, but of course they lost their main guy, Defensive Player of the Year last year, TJ Watt, and he's been back. Minka Fitzpatrick, really good safety, was out for a while, back. They've been banged up. They were very inconsistent on offense for a while because Kenny Pickett was turning the ball over. Najee Harris wasn't running. This is a much better Steelers team. Look, they're not going to be a playoff team, but on defense, this is a team that isn't going to give up a lot. In fact, for 4 straight games, the Steelers haven't given up more than 17 points. It was 17 and then 16 3 in a row. This team is just not letting opponents score, and now they get, a Raiders team that isn't very good at being consistent as far as putting up points. Now, the Raiders do have a lot of their weapons back. Darren Waller's back, Hunter Renfrow is back. So what? I mean, those guys were there early in the season. It wasn't like they were, world beaters. So the Raiders, I don't worry about them having a huge game. This Steelers D is legit. They can collect sacks and force turnovers, and that's the kind of upside you're looking for. Now let's move on to a squad that's basically been underperforming all season, and that would be the Rams. Now, the Rams, of course, their main issue is offense for obvious reasons. The defense is still not like last year's defense, but a lot of that is because of the offense. They're put in bad positions. The talent is pretty much still there. Of course, Aaron Donald hurt. That matters. But again, I don't care. It's the matchup, and you could not ask for a better one because the Rams will be playing the Broncos in what could be the most low-scoring game of the week. And look, I don't care about what Russ Wilson did back when he was healthy 2 weeks ago against the Chiefs. I don't care about Baker Mayfield being a quarterback for the Rams. This is going to be an ugly game for offense. It's going to be a good game for defense. Denver on the season is the team with the fewest points scored and the most sacks allowed. And that's the thing. It's not just that you can't count on Denver for putting up a lot of points, but you know the Rams defense is good for that sack total. That's what you're looking for. And how many points could the Broncos possibly score? Look, the Chiefs defense has been pretty bad, right? That game Russell Wilson finally cooked for one shining moment is not happening against this Rams D, which is still playing with some pride. I'm playing the numbers. I'm going with a defense that is solid against an offense that has been terrible pretty much all season long. This is pretty much as safe a bet as you can get, especially if you get big bonuses for restricting points on a team defense. The Rams are probably your pick. My last pick for defensive streamers in Week 16. You're getting deep here. Maybe there's not a lot out there in terms of options. Why not go with the Chargers? Now, look, this is a defense that has some talent and has just not put it together. You know they've been one of the worst run defenses all year. They've only been slightly better as of late, but still, this is a defense that should be doing better. But once again, we go to the matchup. Who do the Chargers face? It's the Colts. Now, the Colts put up some points against Minnesota last week, but that's misleading. You heard about the 33-point lead that they blew. That wasn't all because their offense went nuts. They had a pick six, right? Special teams play. The offense was still pretty mediocre, and it's not like it's going to get any better with Jonathan Taylor out now for the season. This offensive line has been one of the worst all year. They have gotten a little bit better, but let's not pretend that all of a sudden this is a solid unit. And here's one interesting thing. Look, I know turnovers, it's hard to predict. You don't want to basically chase, the potential for fumbles, especially, or interceptions necessarily. But it's worth knowing that the Colts lead the league with 33 times fumbling the ball, and they have lost 13 of them. Okay, only the Bears are even close. The next closest team, who's in third, is like 22. And now you've got backups at running back. I mean, the Colts are a team you definitely want to target on the defensive side of the ball. And Chargers have been a little better lately, and by lately I mean the last 2 weeks. 17 points, 14 points allowed the last two games against pretty good teams in Miami in their offense, and then Tennessee with Derrick Henry. So Chargers starting to kind of pick things up, at least on the defensive side of the ball. Derwin James being healthy matters a lot. And so you can't imagine that the Colts are going to put up a big point total. The Chargers are a team that you can feel pretty good about, even despite the fact that they look like they're pretty low ranked in terms of overall defensive performance for fantasy. This is a week I think you can play them. All right, those are the top defenses to stream and target for Week 16. We got you covered for every other position, of course. Check out our Week 16 playlist for the fantasy advice you need to win.